What's the best case of instant karma you've witnessed?
I was a cashier at a grocery store. This guy with a full cart complained and bullied employees until he was allowed to use my express checkout because he didn't want to wait in the regular lines. And my line only had 2 people in it. As soon as my floor manager allowed him and he had his cart unloaded, a tiny old lady with a walker who could barely stand got in line behind him. Everyone gave him dirty looks. He realized he messed up and tried to make a joke about it. Dead silence. I hope his saved time was worth being a jerk. Next story. I was waiting at a hotel reception while a young staff member checked me in. A really obnoxious woman flounced over, interrupted what the girl was doing, and proceeded to complain about the standard of the kettle in her room. She ranted, on and on about only having a normal kettle, until I told her to wise up and get in darn line behind me. She shouted that she had been traveling all day and that the room was not a suitable standard. I pointed out it was a freaking airport. Hotel. We'd all been traveling all day and that she should just get lost. By now, the girl at the desk was blood red and tearful. The woman banged her fist on the desk, demanded to see a manager, and then had a fit of coughing. She promptly had an accident all through her beige trousers. She didn't hang around after that. Next story. After purchasing a phone from me and being extremely rude and awful the whole time, they walked out of my store and instantly dropped their phone. It shattered, and they were devastated. They had the nerve to ask me to do them a favor. And add the warranty they earlier said no to cause it's a waste of money. And I had the pleasure of telling them it wasn't possible. Next story. He said he didn't care. He wanted the sale price. He then said he had ordered CDs from our store and always got the sale price. I asked him his name and realized he hadn't purchased the CDs he ordered, and we had been holding them for him for 2 months. He said he didn't want those CDs anymore, and he still wanted the regular price CDs for a sale price. I had decided, right then, I wasn't going to give this guy anything and told him so. Unfortunately, he said the magic words, "I want to speak to your boss." This meant I had to cave into his demands, because our head office was on a "the customer is always right" campaign, and I knew that not only would head office give in, they'd probably reprimand me and my employee for not pleasing him in the first place. I also knew he was the kind of jerk who'd call head office to complain, so I bit my lip and gave in. After he got his CDs, he looked at me triumphantly and said, "I always get what I want," and walked out. Fortunately, he forgot his wallet. I realized karma had called, and I was to be its instrument. I picked up the wallet and threw it in the garbage, much to the shock of my employee. I didn't look in the wallet or take anything out of it. That wouldn't have been karmic. He came running back about an hour later, asking if we saw his wallet. I said I hadn't, and asked the employee he had berated if she'd seen it. She said, no, with an admirable amount of sincerity. He ran back, out with a panic-stricken look on his face. My employee turned to me and said, "He kept calling me a rude word for woman. This is the best day at work I've ever had." I couldn't help but agree with her, and we both enjoyed the rest of the work day. Next story. I work up the street from a courthouse. Guy gets in his car, angry after losing his case. Does like 7,000 kilometers up the street. Smashes his car into another car, slides off of that, and totals a brand new 50K truck which flies backwards into a Kia behind it. Cops pull up the street in 4 seconds and arrest him for driving with an expired license. Next story. I tried to explain to my company how they were breaking the law with one of their procedures. They didn't listen, said somebody up the line would have caught it. Later, illegally fired me whilst I was on FMLA leave. Was, statistically at least, their best employee at my position out of 500 people. They got fined $250K for the violation. I brought up several times. I'm still unemployed, but I go hiking all day and love my life. Have enough saved up to last me until I do find work. Forget 'em. Next story. Something like this happened to me today. This rude person who bullies me because I'm a bit of an outcast in my high school said to me, today, "The only reason why you are here is because your grandma was a rude word for woman who gave birth to a rude word for woman mother." My grandmother died yesterday. The principal overheard her. The principal and I are good friends and knew about my grandmother's passing, and now she can't walk on graduation. Next story. I was targeted for firing. It had nothing to do with my performance, everything to do with my manager's manager that took a disliking to me. I walked the line of perfection for about a month until I found another job. I handed in my 2 weeks' notice. That was victory number 1. I stole about a half dozen of their employees and got them hired into my new company. That was victory number 2. Yes, Redditors. Sometimes being in a right-to-work state works for the little guy. Non-compete clauses are almost completely unenforceable. I'd like to think that victory number 3 was the 30 or 40 employees they lost in the following year, but I can't claim direct responsibility for that. Thing is, when you have employees with high-demand skills like software engineering, you best treat them right. Next story. I went and told on them, my sister's friend included. What happened next was not my doing, but karma. One of my sister's friends, who was like 14 at the time, was showing off and was climbing and jumped off a really high shelf in the closet. She broke her arm. She was screaming and everyone panicked. When my mom found out it was because she was trying to hide from me, she told me that it was instant karma. Next story. Guy sped right past me in the K Street tunnel towards Georgetown, cut me off, and then got rung up by a speed camera just seconds later. He then proceeded to floor it after the first camera caught him and promptly got caught by the trick speed camera not even a half block further, just before the light. Next story. One day I see him walk into the room just needling another kid. He ends his provoking with a Nelson from The Simpsons, ha ha, spins around, and face plants on the ground. The kid he was provoking gave him a ha ha back and walked off. Obnoxious kid gets up, dusts himself off, and humbly slinks away and is pretty quiet for the rest of the day. Next story. Was a lifeguard and kid, 9-10 years old, kept running around on the pool deck. He clearly heard me several times yelling at him to walk, and he ignored me. Next time he ran, he slipped and fell flat on his rear and started crying. The only thing I said was, "That's why I told you to walk," and his mom definitely gave me the evil eye. Next story. My boss got instant karma for mocking me. I had a day off work, and as I was making breakfast, I accidentally sliced my fingertip with a bread knife. I wrapped it up and went to urgent care. It didn't need stitches, but the doctor put a couple steri strips on it and said not to use it for a day or two and stay off a keyboard. Less than 30 seconds later, his cell phone rings. He puts it on speakerphone. It's his wife crying hysterically. She had been in a bad car accident. Next story. Finally, we're first in line waiting at the red light, and a PT cruiser decides they're done waiting and pull into the oncoming traffic lane to go through the red. They get to us at the front and have to stop because naturally oncoming car is turning left into that lane. The oncoming car backs up to let the PT cruiser go, which they then go through the red. Oncoming car is an undercover cop. Cue the greatest instant karma scenario I have ever had the joy of experiencing. Next story. Work in retail. Woman comes in angry that she can't do a refund on a gift without a receipt. I explain that all electronic merchandise has to have a receipt. She gets mad and tries to storm out, but trips over her own feet and face plants a metal pole. Teeth first. She managed to chip a tooth and tried to sue us, but video evidence proved she did it to herself. Double karma. Next story. I was putting away the carts when I was a courtesy clerk at a grocery store. I saw a man look at me doing the carts and then leave his cart next to his car instead of putting it into one of the corrals. I thought to myself, I hope you hit it, jerk. God heard my prayers. He backed out of his parking space and he hit the cart. I will never forget the pure joy I felt hearing that loud bang. Next story. Loaded up an egg in one of those water balloon slingshots to launch at someone's car. The thing snapped backwards and launched the egg straight toward the window of my own car parked nearby. The window was open maybe an inch and the egg entered that space and fantastically exploded all inside of my car. Next story. Back in high school, I was kind of being a jerk to a girl I was friends with. Nothing too bad, just some friendly teasing, but still. Then I turned around and fell down a flight of stairs. Even mid-fall, the karma and the justice did not escape me. Next story. I banged my knee on the corner for a hotel bed, and my husband was laughing his butt off while he was brushing his teeth in the bathroom. As soon as he walks out of the bathroom, hit his knee the exact same way, and I got to laugh my butt off. Next story.
Next story. One time in middle school, this guy who was relatively new at our school was making fun of a girl in our class who fell in the hallway in between classes. Coincidentally, this was a girl I had a crush on. He was a little bit of a class clown and was mocking her, making her look stupid and clumsy. Apparently, he misjudged his footing, and while attempting to jokingly ape the way she had fallen, actually fell for real and landed squarely on his back in front of everybody. He broke his arm in the process. Next story. Driving to work during a snowstorm. Most people are taking it slow because, snow. But a guy in an Infiniti FX35 thinks he's invincible and zooms past everyone like it's a sunny day. I don't see him again until the fork in the road, where he had slammed into an iron fence after taking the turn too fast. He was fine, just standing outside his wrecked car with the most confused look on his face. Next story. A guy in a Charger was weaving through traffic in a work zone. I turned to my passenger and said, "Would be nice to see one of these speed demons get busted just once." Not a minute later, a state trooper popped out from the trees and pulled him over. Work zone speeding? That's double the fine. Next story. My roommate is super nosy and judgmental about people's private lives. At dinner, she blurted out, "I'd get an abortion so fast. I'm guessing you didn't want to keep it either," only to find out our sweet mate had actually had a miscarriage. It was quiet after that, but satisfying to see her finally get shut down. Next story. Walking through a super icy parking lot, I slipped and fell hard. A truck full of guys drove by, rolled down the windows, and started laughing at me. About 30 feet later, they hit a patch of black ice and spun right into a snowbank. They just sat there staring at me while I got up and walked away. Next story. I was driving in the slow lane when a guy flew up behind me, tailgating and flashing his lights. When I didn't move, he sped around me angrily. Right behind him was a state trooper with flashing lights. Timing was perfect. Next story. One classmate crammed the night before and got a 1.5 out of 10. Another, who always studies weeks in advance, laughed at him until he got his own grade, 1 out of 10. He's still bitter. Next story. I was working, driving in the right lane when a brand new Corvette zoomed past us. Top down, fedora on, clearly feeling himself. He suddenly swerved into a Popeyes parking lot at the last second and lost control. Slammed into a boulder and wall, completely wrecking the car. Paper plates still on it from that morning. Best part? A cop was parked at Popeyes and saw the whole thing. Next story. It's winter, and I'm walking home when I notice my shoelace is untied. I grab a tree to steady myself, only to have a bunch of snow fall on my head. A woman walking behind me starts laughing, and immediately slips on the ice and falls right next to me. Next story. I started losing my hair at 22, and it really messed with my confidence. My friends gave me endless grief over it, even when I asked them to stop. Karma hit hard. Within a few years, every single one of them started losing hair fast. Now, 10 years later, I still have most of mine, and they're totally bald. Next story. A rude woman at McDonald's was yelling at a young worker because she wanted her ice cream in a huge soda cup. The poor 17-year-old kept saying, "That's all I can give you, sorry." The woman stormed out, still complaining, and then totally missed the curb while stuffing her face. She fell like a tree and hit the pavement hard. Couldn't have scripted it better.
Driving to work during a snowstorm. Pretty much everyone is taking it easy, because snow. Some guy in an Infiniti FX35 thinks that he's invincible, so he comes driving down the road probably 15 miles an hour faster than everyone else. So he goes past me and I don't see him again until the fork in the road. Mr. Superhero went into the turn too fast and slammed into an iron fence at the triangle dividing the two streets. He was fine because he was outside of his car, looking at it with a look of confusion. Next story. A guy in a Charger was weaving through traffic and speeding in a work zone on the interstate, and I said to the other person in the car, it'd be nice to see one of those assholes get busted just once. A minute later, a state trooper swings out from the tree line on an access road and pulls the guy over. Double fines for speeding in a work zone, by the by. Next story. My roommate is very nosy and judgmental about people's sex lives. My roommate said something along the lines of, "I would get an abortion so fast. I'm guessing you didn't want to keep it either." Only to find out that our sweet mate had a miscarriage. It was an awkward meal after that, but it was so refreshing to see her get shut down like that. Next story. I was walking through an incredibly icy parking lot when I slipped and fell on my butt. A truck full of guys drove by and rolled down their windows to yell out mean things to me and laugh at me. Literally about 30 feet after they passed me, their truck hit a patch of black ice and spun into a snowbank on the other side of the parking lot. They just sat there for a couple of minutes staring at me. Next story. Driving in the slow lane. Guy rushes up to my bumper and starts tailgating me, honked his horn and flashed his lights. When I didn't move, he went around me. Once he passed my car, so did a state trooper with his lights on. Next story. One of my classmates had studied only the night before but got an 1.510. Classmate 2, who always starts studying 2 weeks in advance, just stood and laughed at him until he got his test back. He got a 110. He's still not over it. Next story. Was working, driving in the most right lane on our way to pick up a patient when a brand new Callaway 757 Corvette comes flying behind us. Apparently we weren't going fast enough, so the guy swerves around us, has the top down wearing a fedora, then swerves back into the right lane and decided in the last minute he wants some Popeyes and attempts to turn into the parking lot. I think he watched too much Tokyo Drift and thought he could handle, but the wheels locked and he went straight for some big-ass boulder in a wall, completely wrecking this amazing car. There was a cop right at the Popeyes, saw the whole thing. The best part is the car had paper plates from that same day. Literally, probably had the car for less than an hour, considering it was barely 10 in the morning. Next story. So it's winter, and everything is covered in snow. I'm going home from a friend's place and I see my shoelaces untied. I grab a nearby tree so I can maintain my balance while I put the shoelace inside my shoe, and immediately after grabbing a tree, a shit ton of snow falls on my head. A woman that was walking behind me starts laughing at me, and right after she walks by me, she slipped on the ice and fell down. Next story. I started losing my hair at 22 and was very depressed about it. My friends at the time gave me hell over it and constantly made it the butt of their jokes despite me asking them not to. Pretty soon after, every one of them aggressively started losing hair. 10 years later, and I still have a decent amount, despite a thin spot, and they are completely bald. Next story. This fat bitch was inside a McDonald's yelling and arguing at an employee that she wanted an ice cream, but she just wanted it in a cup with a spoon. When she got it, she kept bitching and harassing the employee, who was a poor, nervous 17-year-old girl, because she must have expected a larger cup filled with ice cream. This bitch wanted a goddamn regular large soda cup filled with ice cream with the cone on top. The poor worker just kept saying, "That's all I can give you, sorry." Well, she kept bitching all the way outside, where her fat ass tripped off the curb because she was too busy stuffing her rotten mouth with ice cream to notice. She fell like a redwood and hit the pavement hard. It was amazing.
Next story. My boss got instant karma for mocking me. I had a day off work, and as I was making breakfast, I accidentally sliced my fingertip with a bread knife. I wrapped it up and went to urgent care. It did not need stitches, but the doctor put a couple of steri strips on it and said not to use it for a day or two and to stay off a keyboard. I went into work the next morning, told my boss that I had to stay off a keyboard for a couple of days, so I had to do some other kind of customer service that did not involve typing. She said no problem. As I walked out of the room, I remembered I had to tell her something else. As I was walking back in, I heard her mocking my injury. Just as she finished, she accidentally slammed the door of the 1-ton safe on her hand. I laughed and said, "Karma's a bitch." She said, "Yeah, I kind of deserve that." She did not break it, but she could not use it, so she had to call another supervisor to come in for the day so she could get it checked out. When the gauze came off my finger a couple of days later and she saw the strips holding it together, she admitted that it did look kind of bad, and she should not have made fun. I accepted and brushed the incident off. Next story. A guy was tearing up the street, ducking off the road onto the shoulder to pass whenever someone was not going fast enough for him, which was everyone. The road had a generous 70 kilometers per hour speed limit, and he was pushing at least 120 at times. This was a residential area, too. Half a kilometer up the road, there was a cloud of smoke. We got there, and it was him. His utility vehicle totaled with the engine flattened. A bus had been taking a wide turn using both lanes, and he obviously was going too fast to register and tried to race up the side as it turned. He had been pushed onto the opposite side of the road, and it was not a small bus, it was a school bus. Next story. Years ago, my brother and I were going to school together. He was driving, I was the passenger. The route we took involved turning onto a road that is 4-lane, then becomes 2-lane for a little under a mile, then back to 4-lane. We turned onto the road where it becomes 2-lane and found we were behind a little red compact car. The speed limit here is 35, and this car was going 31 to 33. We were chilling at a good distance. The road splits soon. No need to be impatient. The black sports car behind us did not agree. He rode our tail tighter. Then, well, let us say it was very close. The whole mile, we never saw his grill in the mirrors, just windshield and Sir Jerkface furiously behind the wheel. We approached the 2 to 4-lane expansion. I noticed a solid white Charger parked on the other side facing the opposite direction. There were 2 guys in honk. As we approached the split, the little red car naturally went into the right lane. My brother started to follow it for a second, then caught himself and switched to moving toward the left lane. Sir Jerkface saw this and was having none of it. That left lane was his. He sat on the horn and gunned full speed straight toward the left lane, and us. My brother quickly swerved right just enough to dodge, then went back into the left lane. As we regained ourselves and I processed what just happened, we sat there for about 3 seconds, breathing heavily and staring at each other. Then I remembered the Charger. I spun my head around to confirm my suspicion. Yep, it tore a U-turn at the split and was rapidly approaching us. I yelled at my brother to quickly return to the right lane. As he completed that, the Charger hit its lights and sirens and sped past us toward the red light ahead, where Sir Jerkface was impatiently waiting. It was happening. We reached them as they were pulling off to the side. I gave an enthusiastic 2 thumbs up to the Charger as we passed. I drove that road an average of 4 times a week for 4 years. I have not seen that Charger parked there, before or since. The one day it was there was the day I needed it. My guardian angel, my sweet justice. Next story. That would be myself. My husband, then boyfriend, was carrying our dog's freshly filled water bowl from the kitchen sink to the feeding mat. The dog ran right into him, and the water spilled all over the floor. I laughed my butt off and called him a dumbass. In the stag, 2 minutes it took him to find the mop. I forgot the water was on the floor and slipped as I walked right through it to get to the dryer. I fell hard onto the granite tile. I had a broken arm, a mild concussion, and received 8 stitches on the side of my head. Next story. Decades ago, my first husband died of cancer. He had been much older than me, but it was a love match. One of his best friends, who lived with his wife in my building, came to see me a few days after the funeral. This man had been a guest in my home dozens of times. Anyway, he proceeded to tell me that whatever price my husband had been paying me to be with him, he would meet or exceed. When I told him to get the hell out, he raped me and told me he would be back for my answer in a few days. The next morning, he was run over by a bus outside our building. I sat with his clueless wife at his funeral and held her hand. Screw him. Next story. A few years back, my buddy and I were traveling around Germany and decided to go to Amsterdam. The trip there was an absolute nightmare. Long story short, we were on a bus around 11 at night because the trains broke down. We also had not had a chance to eat since early that morning. Everyone on the bus was obviously miserable. While we were waiting to leave, we heard some talking behind us. It turned out it was an old German woman's birthday. Everyone was singing and wishing her happy birthday when she said something I did not quite catch. So I asked the person behind me what she said, and they said that all she really wanted was some water. I happened to carry a water bottle with me, religiously. I held it up, gave it a shake, and said, "Wasser?" I swear their whole group started cheering and slapping me on the back. Then, out of nowhere, a hand popped up and dropped 2 sandwiches in our laps. We were eternally grateful to finally have something to eat.